We all have mentors and role models in our lives that have shared wisdom with us in the outdoors and taught us the things that we know. Lessons from Pop is a place where we can reminisce about those individuals and share those stories. Welcome back to another episode of Lessons from Pop. On today's episode, we have Kaitlyn Carlson, who was featured on episode 5 of the main podcast, Rustbelt Outdoors, and Stephanie Grandelis, who was featured on episode 3 of the main podcast. Uh, Kaitlyn's is very interesting. Hers talks a lot about the passion, and Stephanie's is probably one of the most fundamental lessons we can all learn when it comes to the outdoors. I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope everybody learns something.
My lessons from my aunt. So my aunt Kim was probably the most amazing person that I will ever meet in my entire life. But she really got me interested in just outdoors, nature. I mentioned earlier that she was a biology professor at Tri-C in Cleveland, and she would take her students out and they would get in the creek. They would look for macroinvertebrates, which are aquatic insects that are the base foundation of the food chain, pretty much. I mean, most fish eat macroinvertebrates, and if you're into fishing, you know what those are. But she would take her students out. They would do pick nets and they would collect those. You can look at the species that are found and find the pollution tolerance index. So they're a great indicator species. They tell you about the water quality. So she would do that with her students and just like all kinds of really cool things. She would go to the Bahamas and teach in the Bahamas. But she always took bits and pieces of what she taught in her class and brought it home for us, me and my brother, to learn about. And so she would take us out on walks and we would look at different species. She got me interested from a really young age with insects, and I was really into, and still am, really into insect finning. So I collect insects and I use them now in lessons, the lessons that I do at the conservancy. But she just really got me into being outside and enjoying nature and looking at the really small nuances that are you can walk right by, but if you really look at it, it's so deep in how interconnected nature is and like just so many different things that you may never know until you sit down, you look at it for 5 minutes, and then you're like, wow, nature is amazing. It's all interconnected. It was designed just so that it was this way. And so she definitely instilled that from a really young age and would get me books and different things and feed into my nerdiness. We would be in her kitchen measuring out how long a whale shark would be. But just all of the really interesting things that we would see happening outside and why they were happening and how they were happening. But unfortunately, she found out that she had a brain tumor, and so she fought that for a couple years. And it wasn't cancerous, but it was acting cancerous. And so she didn't really let that stop her. She had a lot of days where she did not want to do anything, but she would take her daughter outside and we would spend time outside in the creek. We would do those macro surveys and we would look for crayfish. Um, and just really fun things. At the time, I was working for Creek Connection, so I was doing that at work. And so between her and I, we tag team teaching my other cousins and her daughter all the cool things that she taught in her college classes. And so she just had this perseverance and determination that this wasn't going to be something that stopped her. She just kept going and living her life, and she made the most of everything that she wanted to do, and she set a really great example for her daughter and how you can be really strong even though sometimes it's really, really hard. But she just kind of went out. She said, "This is what we're going to do." And that's what she did. And she didn't let anything ever really tie her down.
Passion that Kaitlyn's aunt instilled in her is exactly what we're going for. That is the whole reason of creating this entire podcast, all of these series, the whole nine yards. We're here to try to instill that passion in everybody for the outdoors and show everybody why it's such a great thing and why we should all love it and respect it. The fact that Kaitlyn had that type of a role model so early in her life was clearly a huge influence on her and definitely impacted her life later on. I mean, she based her entire career off of those lessons that her aunt taught her and those adventures she had with her aunt, and it is an absolutely amazing thing. I hope that everybody can find a person that inspires them like her aunt did, especially in outdoor life, but just in life in general. Next, we have Stephanie's lesson, and she talks about one of the most fundamental things when it comes to being in the outdoors. And just like with everything else, if you don't have the fundamentals right, you're going to suffer elsewhere. And without doing this next lesson properly, I guarantee you will suffer. This is something that we can all learn from and all take away from.
So, it just seems like a kind of strange topic to bring up about someone teaching you something outdoors, but it's how to dress. I think that's so important. So as a kid, you want to go outside and you just want to wear whatever. I don't know if you ever see children sitting at bus stops in like no coat and shorts for the wintertime. So my father took me out to the farm and said, no matter what, wear long pants, long shirt when you're working in the fields. I want a tan. I don't understand why you would want me in long shirts. And then you get out there and you realize there's so much that can go wrong if you don't wear the right gear. And this goes in the summertime, wintertime, rainy season. Um, One time I had someone work with me during the summer, and when we work in the summers, it is very, very well known for us to take 2 or 3 different shirts with us, maybe a couple pairs of pants, always bandanas around our necks full of ice, to keep you cool. And someone was working with us and said, like, "How do you keep yourself cold?" And like, "You gotta take the bandana and put it in the ice water and put it around your neck." And thought that was so stupid until they got so hot. They're like, "Give me some ice and water and put it on my neck, please." Um, or when I'm out in the elements and I don't have, the really expensive raincoat and everything is dripping, and my feet are sopping because I don't have the right shoes on. So I think one of the most important things is when you're going to be outside, the story I can tell you is if you're not dressed appropriately, you're not going to be able to enjoy it at all because the entire time you're just going to be focused on how miserable you are. So if I can teach anyone anything, it's be prepared. Don't just go out there in a pair of shorts and a tank top.
This may be an incredibly short Lessons from Pop episode, but the two lessons featured here, I think, are two of the most important lessons that we can learn. The first one being that passion that was instilled in Kaitlyn at such a young age. I really hope that we can continue that passion and spread it to other individuals and get them to enjoy it as much as the rest of us do. And that second lesson from Stephanie about the way that you dress. I don't know if you guys have spent any time in a tree stand in late October or early December. And if you're not dressed properly, you are going to suffer. I remember when I was real young, I think it might have been the first year that I could legally hunt and I actually got to carry a gun. And I went hunting with dad. And he had told me about how this Gore Tex jacket that he got me was super warm. So I put this Gore-Tex jacket on, which was just a rain jacket, and a t-shirt. And rifle season in Pennsylvania starts the at that point in time the Monday after Thanksgiving. So the last week of November, first week of December, and I think I made it a total of 10 minutes in the tree stand before we had to go back to the truck and dad could pile on some clothes that he just happened to have in the truck with him. Thankfully, he had there. But those two lessons, that how you dress and just being passionate about the outdoors, are going to be the two most important lessons that come up on this podcast. And I really hope that you guys can take something away from that and it will help you when you're in the field or when you're talking to somebody about why you enjoy this kind of stuff and why you want to be outside and why other people should be outside. So let's just try and take those to heart and continue to pass them on. Until next time, remember, take someone outdoors.